Oh, happy Friday. I love this day because it gives me a little bit of chance to pause. But as I was going into the weekend and having a minute after presentations, I thought, oh my goodness, it has been a year, literally. Tomorrow marks a year, 365 days since I received the announcement that my schools would be closing, my children's schools would be closing. And it's interesting to reflect on those years. We can't help but know that it's here, right? Our memories on Instagram and Facebook are popping up, and it's a reminder of different things that were happening during that time. And I have to say, while I've lost some friends during this year, it's been an interesting year professionally and personally. And I can't help but think that if we don't walk away from this year as better than before and doing things differently, then we haven't learned much. I don't want to go back to the way things were. There are some things that I miss, right? Like wearing lipstick to work, adding those features, and not needing to wear a mask. That's going to be great, but I was happy to do so to keep my students and my coworkers safe. So here's some facts as we reflect on this year. One thing for sure, as I was looking at a post that I had posted last year during this time about the importance of families hugging their children more, spending time together, taking time to journal what they were going through. And it's funny because we said in the next 3 weeks, because we really thought we would be back in school in 3 weeks. We had no idea. But those kinds of things that we looked at, the mental health of our children as they went through this, making sure that they weren't watching the news constantly, as we learned from our other experiences as parents and adults. For me, I was in college, finishing up my master's when 9/11 happened, and so I remember learning that it's not good for our students to be watching the news constantly during COVID because that's all they would think about. And so, two things that I really hope will change as we move forward is the constant mental health that we look at for our students and conversations surrounding race. Those two need to change. And we also need to look at the fact of saying to our students, we need to make sure that you're not behind. That affects their mental health. What are they behind in? They literally lived a life none of us had experienced as children. And so for us to emphasize that they are behind in school would make them feel like their brain is not sufficient enough. As an educator, when I'm looking at that statement, I'm thinking, we set the standards for what they're supposed to learn. And remember when kindergarten was more play than it is now? So instead of saying to the students, let's make sure that you're not behind, let's say to them, what can we do to support your learning? Many schools are going to proficiency-based standards, standard-based grading, and I think it's wonderful because if we look at what students know, and as we look for our English language learners of the WIDA can-do statements, what can they do? And let's build upon that. Let's reset the standards. If we haven't learned anything in education in this past year, it's what we were doing wasn't working, and we can reinvent it. Now is the time. So moving forward, don't feel the pressure that your child is behind. They experienced a lifetime of learning this year. I was proud watching my children outside, digging holes, getting dirty, finding their imagination, and being creative. And let's embrace that as they can learn to do other things and learn to think. And what does that look like? So instead of focusing on the fact that students are behind as we continue to move forward, let's look at what they know and what they can do and respecting the mental health. And of course, as we continue to have conversations around their mental health, let's look at how a lot of our Black and brown kids, during the time that we did have off, had a lot lighter stress levels. They didn't have to deal with the microaggressions and the bias that were thrown at them when they were out of school. Let's keep that same energy and keep our students safe. These are just a few Friday facts. Have a wonderful weekend.